sharing my screen. So in just about 2 seconds, I'll share my screen and you'll see a slide pop up. Now, what you can do, I won't be able to see it once we get started live with the class, but what we can do is if you have a question, just make sure and put it in the chat box and we will answer your questions all at the end. So we are recording. Welcome to one of our Wednesday night Essential Oil 101 or Intro to Essential Oils class. I can say one of my most favorite things about doing this part of my wellness business is that I get to do it from home. I try and make it look somewhat professional, but I just got my daughter to sleep. I'm actually sitting in my bed and my daughter's asleep next to me. So, and I get to teach a class. So that's the most fun thing about what I do is that it's really easy and, it works around my life. So we're glad you guys are here tonight and we're going to get started. So here we go. Let's make sure everybody can see this. Let's do it in play mode and see if this helps. Awesome. So we're going to get started with just the very basics. We're going to be all here together for about 30 minutes. And again, like I said, I won't be able to see your questions when you pop them in the chat box now, but we'll answer them at the end. So don't hesitate as we go throughout the presentation to pop them into the chat box and let us know what questions you have. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I can scroll through this. Let's see, there we go. So I love the title of this, Live Naturally. This is really how my story kind of began. And I just like to start by kind of introducing you to myself and who I am. My name is Eliza Bacot, and I was trained in modern healthcare and have worked in critical care for over 16 years. And probably about 10 years ago, I started to go on a wellness journey, really studying and trying to understand why were so many people sick. Why were so many people getting cancer younger, digestive diseases younger? We were seeing a lot of these people in the ICU where I was working as a nurse practitioner. And it just kind of led me to start questioning everything. So I started to make a lot of changes in my life. I really started to think about the types of food that I bought and put in my body, was making sure that I was buying organic food. And then I got pregnant with my son, and I really started to investigate the toxic products in our environment. Cancer was a big part of the, where I worked in the ICU. Probably about 30 to 40% of the patients that I took care of had some form of cancer. And a lot of them were really young. So I started to investigate cancer-causing agents in our environment. And I started to get rid of lots of things in my home, but I didn't really have a solution. So fast forward a couple years later, my graduate school instructor from Emory, where I was still teaching, actually was the one who introduced me to essential oils. And she said, I know you love living the natural life. And I know that you like to get back to sort of a more simple life. And I think you should start to learn about essential oils, because she said, I think you're going to start to see this come into the practice of modern medicine as we start to get back to what's pure and what's natural. So I started using them. I was very skeptical at first to use them because I was very used to a pharmaceutical-based approach, which was you solve every problem with pharmaceuticals. And so one of my first encounters with essential oils actually was when my son was 18 months old and he had a fever. And I went to go get the box of Tylenol and I looked at all the inactive ingredients, and I just felt so uncomfortable giving him that product internally. So then I went to my little Modern Essentials book and I looked up, what can I use for his fever? His fever was really high, 103, 104, and it said peppermint. So I took some of the peppermint essential oil out of the bottle. I diluted it with a little bit of fractionated coconut oil and I applied it to his spine. And sure enough, within about 15 minutes, his fever came down by about 1.5 degrees. Now, it didn't make his fever go away, which was fine with me because fever is wonderful and protective. And then I kind of watched it creep back up over the next couple hours, and I did the experiment again. I reapplied it, rechecked his temperature 10 to 15 minutes later, and sure enough, it went back down. So I repeated that experiment a couple times. And after that, I was like, okay, I'm paying attention, because one time could have been a fluke, but 3 or 4 times was pretty impressive. So I started studying them, and I started really incorporating them into our daily lives at home. And because I had really started to get a better understanding about plants and herbal medicine, I was really intrigued about all the different ways that I could use something natural on my family to fix our ailments. So fast forward another few years later, I became really, really entrenched in the research of essential oils, to the point that I started teaching classes, and to the point that I really felt like I was supposed to teach other people how to use these properly, safely, because they were so effective, and because it was such an important, valuable tool in my home. And so I left my job in modern medicine a little over 2.5 years ago, and fully launched a wellness business. And a big part of what I do in my wellness business is doTERRA and teach people how to use essential oils. We also do lots of other things, lots of other testing, diagnostics, nutritional counseling. But the majority of what I do is based around teaching people how to use essential oils properly. So that's my story. That's who I am, and that's why I'm here. So we only have about 5 or 6 slides to go through. The class is going to be pretty simple and pretty quick. And it's really just to give you a basic introduction into how to use these and how to get them in your home, and why you would want to use them in your family. So we kind of start with the question, where did wellness from plants originate? Well, wellness from plants really originated with the fact that we eat plants, right? And they provide nourishment from our body. And the cool thing is that most of the plants that are on the earth contain essential oils, and they can come from the stems, the root, the bark, the flower of different types of plant. And typically we get them from steam distillation. Most of the citrus oils are cold pressed from the rind. And the essential oil is actually like the immune system of the plant. So this is why you'll see a lot of essential oils have very strong immune protective properties. They have bug repellent properties, anti-inflammatory properties, and even some of them have SPF, right? So helichrysum has an SPF of 5, because the essential oils are there to protect the plant. So we can extract the most potent part of the plant, basically, and get it in a bottle, 250 drops of essential oil in a bottle. And we can use it in a medicinal way for ourselves, for our ailments, because that's really wellness from plants originated from, is that we were supposed to use them for different things that came up with our body. So why do people care about this now, right? We've been using plants in herbal medicine for thousands of years, right? And we know about frankincense even back in the day before Jesus was born, and how they used that. It wasn't just a perfume, it was actually a medicinal resin that they used from the tree. Well, the truth and the honest story about why people are changing their natural options is because some of us are being failed by modern medicine. I've seen this plenty of times in the hospital, and it's very expensive, and it doesn't really get to the root of the problem. And there's a lot of side effects, right? And so it's very unnatural in the body. So we have to deal with a host of side effects. What's interesting about the natural options through essential oils is because nature produces it, our body is used to consuming plants. It can meet the body's needs and actually support the body in healing itself. Not to mention, these work at the cellular level, so they're able to penetrate the cell membrane, and it can actually help the body fight infections, help the body heal different types of, let's say, wounds in the skin. Promote healing. And so it's just an easier, safer, more effective option. We don't have to worry as much about a side effect, where we typically have to worry about that with the medication. And I've already told my story, so we sort of have covered that. Okay, so what would be a great reason for you to use essential oil? Sorry about that. So number one, they're natural, right? And we're turning to natural options. And the reason why we're additionally seeing this sort of revival back to plant-based medicine is because there's been a plethora of research the last 20 years. We have a lot of science now coming out saying, wow, this is actually very effective against this bacteria that antibiotics won't even treat anymore. So they're very natural, but they are very potent. So when we talk about these natural aromatic compounds that are found in the plants, they are very, very potent. So for instance, if you had a cup of peppermint tea, say for nausea or stomach upset, you would actually have to drink 28 cups of peppermint tea to make 1 drop of peppermint the same effect in your body if you put 1 drop of peppermint in your body. So I always tell people, in the case of essential oils, more is not more. You really don't need a lot to typically solve a problem. They are 50 to 70 times more powerful than their corresponding herbs, which is why when we talk about how much to use, it's really going to be about 1 to 2 drops. Pretty simple, whether that's topical, internal. Aromatically, I typically diffuse about 6 to 8 drops. We'll talk about that and how you use them. But just know that, because typically we tend to think in our society, oh, I'll just use more. Well, that's not necessarily the right way. They are effective. So we know this. This has been scientifically proven that essential oils work on the cellular level. We understand how they work in the body, just like we understand how different types of medications work in the body. And the cell membrane is oily. And so that natural oil actually can penetrate the cell membrane and can actually function at the cellular level to kill viruses, bacteria, and actually turn different types of cells on and off, basically. So for instance, our On Guard blend is something that we use for immune support. It has cinnamon, clove, eucalyptus, rosemary, and wild orange. So one of the downsides to an online class like this is we can't really pass around oils and smell them, but most of you here have had at least a sample or an experience with an essential oil, and you've had an idea of how it works and what it smells like. So you can imagine that blend together. But the reason why that is so effective is because cinnamon and clove have a very, very high antiviral capacity. So they are able to kill viruses. Clove alone has an antioxidant rating that is 40 times that of blueberries. So you're talking about using something on your body that can help arm it and fight it against viruses. And for instance, we diffuse tons of On Guard in the respiratory season because it has been proven to kill the microbes that are sort of floating around in the air. So now let's talk about why doTERRA. We are hearing a ton about essential oils. They're all over the market. You see them in Bed Bath & Beyond. You see them in Whole Foods. So why would you use from doTERRA? So doTERRA started in 2008 with the primary mission of putting oils on the market that were completely pure. Unfortunately, in our country, about 80 to 90% of the essential oils on the market are adulterated in some way, form, or fashion. They are not regulated by the FDA. They're not regulated by any certifying body. And so it's really difficult to know what you're getting. And so doTERRA created a 7-step system of how to test their oils, making sure that there's nothing in the essential oil that should not be there. So part of their promise to us is CPTG. That's something that they created. They wanted to create a standard in the market that did not exist. That is certified pure therapeutic grade. That's their promise to us, that none of their essential oils will ever contain fillers, pesticides, or any foreign contaminants. They actually do third-party testing at 3 different points in the process: upon harvesting, upon bottling, and again before it gets sent to the consumer. And they promise us through co-impact sourcing. They're really, really serious about this. So they source from over 45 countries around the world, because they knew if they went to places where the plant grew indigenously, they actually don't have to do a lot to that particular plant to make it grow. For instance, wintergreen naturally grows on the side of the mountains in Nepal. So if you go to the habitat not only do you get where it grows naturally, not only do you get a better essential oil because it's growing in the soil and the climate that it needs, so you have a much higher therapeutic benefit, and they see that in the oil quality in the testing. But they also found that in these indigenous communities, when they partnered with them directly, they were able to provide economic sustenance for a lot of these communities. So securing jobs, making sure there was on-time payment, and just sort of building up these different communities around the world. So if you Google co-impact sourcing in doTERRA, you're going to see a lot of information about that. We take that very seriously in doTERRA because we want to partner with growers. We don't want there to be a middleman. 95% of the growers exclusively deliver oils to doTERRA for doTERRA. So there's direct partnerships there. And that's very important to make sure that that essential oil that we're getting, that we're putting on our family, inside of our bodies, is exactly what we want it to be, which is pure from the plant. So we'll take a really quick second here and just take a pause. We'd like to kind of talk about you, and we'll answer this in the chat box. But I tell people, just grab a piece of paper and write down a couple questions you may have, or a couple thoughts about, well, how could I use essential oils in my home? Or how could that help my health goals? So a good example of this might be, well, it's always difficult for me to get to sleep. So is there an essential oil that could help me sleep? And we're just going to take 1 minute, and you guys can write down a couple questions or thoughts, and we will answer them in the chat box at the end. And just know this too, you guys, if you don't want to wait to have them answer in the chat box, you can certainly unmute yourself and speak up. You're welcome to do that if you don't mind doing that and sharing that with other people that are on. You can unmute yourself and ask any questions throughout the process. So you'll see on the right there, we call this the wellness pyramid. Where essential oils are really going to help you with living a healthy lifestyle. Obviously, we have proactive medical care. That's important. The healthcare piece of maintaining wellness is super important. I take my children to the doctor. There is no abandonment of modern medicine in this world. We just have to combine it with the alternatives that we have, right? So we believe in informed self-care. But the ways that essential oils can really help us are in reducing our toxic load in our everyday life, and helping with rest and managing our stress, and with exercise, and in some arenas through supplements. And the use of essential oils internally daily can help balance out our nutrient needs and keep us from getting sick. So that's how essential oils can be incorporated kind of into our lifestyle to make sure that we're staying healthy. Okay, so let's skip ahead here. We'll skip back, but I want to talk really quickly about the 3 main ways that we use oils in our home. And so aromatically, you maybe have seen or heard of a diffuser, but I will tell you that aromatic can be something that you also do manually. So I love to put a couple drops of oils in my hand and just smell them. That's a great way to open up the airway, improve breathing. It's a great way to help with mood management. I take sort of essential oil timeouts all the time. I have my balance oil right here beside me, and I love to do that, especially in the afternoon when I feel a little bit of stress after having a day with kids, or I've had a lot going on, and I'll just kind of rub my hands together and take a couple deep breaths. And so, but typically we use a diffuser for this, right? And so we stopped using candles and plugins and all of that a long time ago to scent our home. And we just use diffusers. So I have one in the kitchen, and this is one way to freshen the air, right? But it's another way to actually purify the air. So when we know we use certain oils like On Guard, and lemon, that those actually have the potential to kill bacteria in the air. So On Guard is always going in my home around the respiratory season, because if people are coming in and sneezing and coughing, those little droplets live in the air, live on surfaces. And so it's a great way to freshen the air, purify the air. And another way we use them aromatically is by our bedside. So to help with sleep and wind down. We use this a lot with our kids. My husband and I each have a diffuser beside our bed. We each have different oils that we love to diffuse. And so it's a wonderful way to sort of augment not only your mood, but your sleep and the health of the air in your home. So topically is another way that we love to use them. If you want systemic effect, meaning you want a full body effect from a topical approach, we typically tell people to apply it to the bottom of the feet, or the affected area. For instance, my kids are having a little tummy ache. I love to apply oils to their belly. I love to apply oils to their spine. But something to know about topical is that we love to dilute it with fractionated coconut oil. That just extends the product. It gives us more. We use little roller bottles that we put the fractionated coconut oil. Fractionated coconut oil is liquid at room temperature. It's actually the distilled coconut oil. So we're just getting the liquid benefits of that, what we call, like a vegetable oil or a fruit oil, right? And you don't have to use fractionated coconut oil. You could use avocado oil, olive oil, grapeseed oil, pomegranate seed oil, jojoba oil, sweet almond oil. Any of those can be great, what we call carrier oils. And so this is a great way to use them in children. And one thing about the aromatic portion, I will just tell you, back to the diffuser, a good rule of thumb is to use anywhere from 4 to 8 drops, okay, in your diffuser. And typically those will run all day or all night. Now in my children's room, I always use about 4 drops because we have a really small room up there. But just so you know an amount. And topically, when I'm using it topically, I love to make those little roller bottles because it makes it so easy. If this isn't easy, then none of us are going to do it, right? We have to make it a habit-forming thing, something that's super accessible. But if I just have my oil and I need a couple drops, I'll put 2 drops in my hand with about a teaspoon of fractionated coconut oil and say, apply that to my child's back or stomach. But typically I'm using those little roller bottles that are already pre-diluted and I'm just rubbing a little bit on them. And then internally, we really reserve internal usage for when we have a more significant problem. For instance, for me, if I'm having digestive upset, I love to do the digestive blend. Or if I need a little extra immune support, say that I have been exposed to a virus or an illness, I'll put a drop of On Guard in my tea. You can certainly put it in a shot of water. They sell veggie caps, just vegetable cellulose, non-GMO vegetable cellulose caps that you can actually make your own veggie cap with and put a couple drops of oil in there. You can also put it underneath your tongue or on the roof of your mouth. Part of my daily regimen is actually just putting a drop of frankincense on the roof of my mouth because frankincense is such a strong anti-inflammatory agent and great for so many things. So those are the 3 ways that you use them in your home. And don't get me wrong, we found a million other ways. We clean with them. We have linen sprays. So we use them in lots of other different ways around our home. But these are the main ways that we use them for wellness. So let's talk very specifically about just some top 8 basic oils that I love. So lavender, we all sort of know about lavender essential oil as something that's a calming oil, right? And when I say calming, I mean it truly is. When this oil is taken internally, it actually works on the same receptors that these anti-anxiety medications work on in the body. So it really, really does actually produce an anti-anxiety effect. So I think soothes emotions is a wonderful thing to say, but it really does take it to a new level. We can use lavender aromatically, topically, internally. I love to diffuse it at night for my children. But what people don't really realize about lavender, it's why we call it the Swiss Army knife of oils, is because it's awesome for so many things related to skin, It's an antihistamine. So we actually use it when we have allergies or any sort of seasonal problems. It's wonderful for kitchen burns, sunburns, and it is the anti-itch oil. So if you have any problem that causes any sort of itching, like a rash or skin problem, this is the go-to. And lavender really actually helps with wound healing as well. It does have some antibacterial properties, but really, really, really great for wound healing. Melaleuca, also known as tea tree oil. You'll see it labeled tea tree oil now because that's just the most common name for it. It comes from the tea tree plants in Australia is where doTERRA sources it from. And it can be used aromatically, topically, and internally. Now, if you've smelled doTERRA's Melaleuca, you'll realize it has a very, very clean scent. I consider Melaleuca like the antibiotic oil. So it's wonderful for acne or any other sort of skin issues. Excuse me. Again, for my kids, I have a little roller bottle that is mixed with fractionated coconut oil. And I put 10 drops of lavender, 10 drops of Melaleuca in there. And I rub that on when they have any scrapes or, you know, anything skin related, because the Melaleuca is helping them make sure that nothing gets infected and the lavender is helping heal. It's also a strong antifungal. So this is the one we use on feet, right? Feet are moist and they tend to be prone to funguses, especially the nails. And so it's wonderful to use in sort of a foot spray. I have a foot spray that I put on myself and my children just to keep our feet healthy. It's also great for the scalp and hair. So for instance, kids that have cradle cap or if you have dandruff, so it's great to keep a bottle of this in the shower and add a drop or two to your shampoo when you're shampooing your hair. And it just smells very, very clean. Because it is antifungal, it's a mold inhibitor. So I actually add it to our On Guard Cleaner Concentrate that we use with doTERRA. And basically every time I get out of the shower, I just spray down the shower with that. And that helps keep the mold of mildew growth at bay. It's really cool to learn that some of these new cleaning green companies are actually using Melaleuca or tea tree oil to fumigate basements. Lemon. Lemon is such a simple, clean, essential oil. Again, it comes from the rind of the lemon fruit. You can use it aromatically, topically, internally. Think about a cleansing agent when you think about lemon. If this is actually like the Goo Gone of our household. So like when my kids put stickers everywhere or when they color with a Sharpie on the molding, this actually gets all of that off. It's awesome. But it also thins mucus. So it's wonderful to diffuse or drink in the water or put in a cup of tea, a drop. And it's also wonderful to diffuse. It's very uplifting. So when you think about uplifting the mood or diffusing in your home, I just want you to think of citrus oils, okay? They're very well known for their mood uplifting properties, for making people happy. Wild orange is another one we use a lot for that. And it's a great cleaning agent. I love to add this actually to the laundry. I've used this in the past to get blueberry stains out of baby bibs. It's just a really great tool to have around the house. Then we have frankincense. We call frankincense the king of all oils. We use it aromatically, topically, and internally. So I like to say to people, when you don't know which oil to use, or if you're just getting started with oils and you're a little confused, just use frankincense because it is so diverse in its uses and its properties. It's basically great for everything. So frankincense is so wonderful for wounds and wound healing. It's actually known for its calming properties and sedative properties. So it's wonderful to use for, say, head tension or stress. It's a strong anti-inflammatory. It promotes anti-inflammatory effects in the body. So we'd love to use this internally if we're ill. And it's wonderful. I love to use it for meditation and mindfulness practice. I love to rub a couple drops on my temples. Frankincense is one I don't always dilute. I just love to take a little bit out of the bottle, put it on the roof of my mouth, rub it behind my ears or on my temples. I love, love, love frankincense. It's a very, very powerful oil. Now, the balance blend, you will notice that doTERRA makes different blends because they know that we have different problems. So you see across the bottom there, those are all blends of oils that we're going to talk about, which is awesome because I don't know about you, I don't have time to always be mixing different blends for different things. So doTERRA has made it really easy for us, right? So balance is considered the grounding blend, and this has got some blue tansy in it, some chamomile. This has frankincense. It has some tree oils in it as well. Some black spruce in there. So it actually is one of my husband's favorites because it's got those tree oils in it, and men tend to love that. It's a very grounding smell. This bottle already comes diluted in fractionated coconut oil. We use this only aromatically and topically, but say for people that have stress and anxiety, I would tell them take 2 drops of lavender in a veggie cap or a shot of water and rub some balance in your temples and start diffusing it. It's wonderful for relaxing. I use this on my kids all the time during tantrums, especially when they're having some mood imbalance in the afternoon or we're trying to wind down at night. I apply oils to my children's feet every night. And this is one of the blends that we love to use. Digestion. This does exactly what it says. So we use this blend. You can use it aromatically, topically, internally. For my kids, I always use it topically. For myself and my husband, we use it internally. And this blend has peppermint, ginger, caraway, coriander, fennel, anise, and tarragon. So all the essential oils that come from the plants that we know are wonderful to support digestion. And I can tell you this from experience, it works for vomiting, it works for diarrhea, it works for constipation, it works for bloating, it's great for nausea. And this really helped me in the first trimester of my pregnancy. It also works for people that just need a little extra help digesting food or say you've eaten too much. And so I use this topically on my kids. I have a little Digestion roller bottle that I keep around anytime they have a little tummy ache. And it's really cool because some of those oils in there are very well known actually for keeping different types of parasites and bacteria at bay and just actually helping digestion functions happen in the body. Then we have Deep Blue essential oil blend that doTERRA makes. Now, this is one that we only use topically. This has peppermint, wintergreen, blue tansy in it, lots of oils that are known for their pain relieving properties. And so this is wonderful for soothing. This is something that I actually use on my children for growing pains. If you haven't had that yet, or if you've experienced that in the past, the children wake up in the middle of the night with growing pains. I use this on my head and neck for tension or any sort of pain. Joints. It's great to use before an exercise to reduce discomfort. Any sort of like ailment that you have in the muscles or the joints, this is the one to use for that. I also take it with me to the spa when I get a massage, especially for those, really tense sore areas that they typically have to work on. And then finally, we have the Breathe blend. So this is our respiratory support blend. It helps the airways open up. So peppermint, eucalyptus, we have tea tree in here, lemon, ravensara, cardamom, and laurel leaf. So all of these oils are known to help thin mucus. Eucalyptus is actually known to open the airways. So imagine if you have an upper respiratory infection or your child does and you have some congestion at night, this is actually what we diffuse next to our bedside. And I have a little Breathe roller bottle that I apply to the chest of my children when they wake up congested or have any sort of breathing problems. So that gives you kind of a good overview and insight. While these are just 8 oils, but just a very typical collection of oils that you can use in the home for different types of ailments. So we already talked about this. So we're going to pop out now. That sort of ends the class. And we will just go and see if you guys had any questions. What I'm going to do when we are finished is, if you're not already enrolled, I'll post the kits that are options that you can use in your home. doTERRA works like a wholesale membership, like Costco, and you can purchase a kit, which includes your membership fee. You can order out of your account whenever you want. You can order monthly, which gives you reward points. So I'll post about that in the event if you have any questions about that. And let me see if you guys had anything in the chat box. No questions. Okay, very good. And if this was super helpful for you guys, but you want more information, I always direct people to our YouTube channel. So you can just Google YouTube, The Organic South. And there's another great hour-long class, a much longer class that I do called Essential Oils 101. And I dive a little bit deeper into protocols, recipes, different things that you can use for your home and your family to help them stay well with essential oils. So I hope you guys found that helpful. And again, if you have any questions, you can post in the Facebook event or you can direct message me. I'm happy to help you. But I hope that gives you a nice little introduction on how to use essential oils. So you guys have a fantastic night, and thank you so much for joining. Take care. Just know this too, we did record this and we will post it in the Facebook event as well.